Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and I've got some Modern Horizons spoilers. And thankfully, this video will save you from having to watch Wizard's absolutely awful Twitch stream. Well, I mean, it already happened, but hopefully you didn't watch it. So before we jump into the new spoilers, just in case you missed it, we've got Cabal Therapist. This was already a known card. This is, of course, a very similar card to Cabal Therapy, but it's in creature form, and I talked all about it and what decks it goes in, that kind of stuff earlier, so let's just breeze over it. And the other one that we already knew about, besides the two Spanish leaks, were the first ever printing of Sarah as a planeswalker. Check out Sarah the Benevolent. Now, everybody might say, wow, this is a little bit pushed on the power level, but it costs 4 and it's intended for Modern, so not really. So, yes, but in context, no. Now, if only I could get the Dunmer from Morrowind to stop calling me Sarah. So those two cards were shown off as examples of brand new cards that were going to be in Modern Horizons when they announced Modern Horizons. So the rest are new spoilers as of today. But before we jump into them, I have to respond to some comments that I know would otherwise be in the comment section. But Des, how could you not have heard of this card? But Des, how could you not know that this is just a different reprinted version of this card? But Des. Let me answer all of those questions. I don't play Modern. I don't care about Modern. I don't follow anything about Modern, what decks are popular, the meta, anything. Modern is stupid. It's not even Magic the Gathering. It's a completely different game because none of these cards were ever meant to go together. They weren't play tested together, and all of Tier 1 in Modern is just a list of broken stuff that should have been banned. Way too much of Modern is just overpowered, turn 4, same every time, infinite combo, or just same win con BS. It's not even worth your time shuffling. They should change the name of Modern Vintage Legacy to Magic the Waste of Time instead of Magic the Gathering. And they could make it vaguely playable and vaguely fair if they had any kind of philosophy that involved a concept of fun, but they don't, so Ad Nauseam and Lantern Control are still decks. There's your two reasons not to play Modern if you don't believe anything else I say about it. So Modern's a joke. It's overpriced. It's not approachable. I hate it. It's stupid. And it's not even worth your time to shuffle the cards that just lose to some infinite combo on turn 4 because you went second. Hopefully that explains why I don't know much about Modern. So starting out with the spoilers, we got Deep Forest Hermit. It's a 5-cost 1/1, which really just is absolute sheer value. It has a mechanic called Vanishing, which apparently is a thing. So Vanishing 3, this creature enters the battlefield with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from it. When the last is removed, sacrifice it. Wow, that's stupid. And then when Deep Forest Hermit enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, and then squirrels you control get +1/+1. Well, not after it dies. This is a weird way to do a self-contained swarm. I mean, I'd almost rather just be very straightforward and run Secure the Waste or something, because at least that's flexible. I don't know. I don't really like this card. Plus in Modern, this card is going to vanish quicker than 3 turns from now. I'll tell you that right now. I do like anything that supports Squirrel Tribal though, so I don't know. I'll give it a 2 out of 5. I'm literally not going to rate any other of these. Next up, we've got Force of Negation, which is neither Force of Will nor Pact of Negation and never will be, but they're trying to kind of convince you into maybe thinking that it is so that you can pre-order it for $20, even though I have my doubts about it being worth that much. Now, that said, it is, under some circumstances, a free counterspell. So you could just straight up counter a target non-creature spell for 3. So if the spell is countered that way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Cool that they added that, but they needed to because this card isn't that good by itself. So it's non-creatures only and it exiles. Okay, what makes it better than negate? Well, if it's not your turn, so there goes 50% of the time, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So you basically get a free, well, not free, there's a cost to it, but you get a 0 mana counterspell. Okay, in every format of Magic ever made, that is no freaking joke. But unfortunately, this card is, because, well, it has to not be your turn. You have to have another blue card. You're trading 2 cards for one of their cards, and now you don't have card advantage. You in fact now have a card disadvantage because of it. For a refresher, actual Force of Will is you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost, counter target spell. So whether it's your turn or not, and no matter what type of spell it is, counter it for free and 1 life and ditch a blue card. That is so much better than this card, it's comical. But it would also be way too powerful for Modern. I mean, up until very recently, very few Modern decks leaned heavily on blue. They usually just splashed it for 1 or 2 specific spells and that was it. So here we come with double blue, and it'll be a miracle if this even shows up in somebody's sideboard. So, sorry, Wizards, you didn't convince me that this is force of pact of negation of will. Next up, Impostor of the Sixth Pride. Okay, you're not fooling anyone there, bro. Okay, like that is the worst disguise I've ever seen to sneak into the Sixth Pride, okay? You look like you just came from working at Wizards of the Coast or a gay bar. If you want to be subtle and sneak into a pride of lions or really anywhere, don't go with like the pink and purple hair. Don't go get your garments from the women's section, okay? This guy looks like he just came from Mardi Gras. Anyway, it's a 3/1 for 2 with Changeling, and this card is every creature type. I am so sick of changelings. It's a 3/1 for 2, which is hyper powerful, and then it slots into any deck that runs tribal. Oh, and is capable of generating white. So this is pretty damn powerful. But on top of just, oh cool, I'll put it in my elves deck. Oh gee, I'll put it in my merfolk deck. Yes, I know, neither one of those run white. Get over it. You can do some highly degenerate things with Changeling, but I haven't seen a lot of that in Modern in the last couple years. Not that I've been paying close attention. So next up, we've got Martyr's Soul. I like that artwork. That's pretty wild. It's a 3/2 for 3 Spirit Soldier. It has Convoke, which is always fun. And it enters the battlefield, or when it enters the battlefield, if you control no tapped lands, put 2 1/1 counters on it. So if you paid for this exclusively with Convoke, you get an extra permanent +2/+2. This card is freaking awesome, and I love it. Next up, we've got a card that I already know exactly what they're parodying. It's Wall of 1,000 Cuts, which is clearly supposed to be Wall of Swords. I mean, they're both 3/5s with Defender and Flying. But this one, they added pay 1, and it can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. Now, Wall of Swords, I don't know why I like that card so much, I just do. So this is a functional reprint, similar art, similar abilities, it's just an upgrade. So honestly, this card is like nothing special unless it has some supporting aspects in the deck that it's in, like an all-flying deck or something, but I like it. Next up, Choking Tethers. This is a reprint that was just in Masters 25, so if it looks familiar, that's why. So it costs 4, it's an instant, tap up to 4 target creatures. It has cycling 2, which is nice in case they don't have creatures or whatever. I love cycling. And then whenever you cycle Choking Tethers, you may tap 1 target creature. So then we've got 3 conditions under which you could make use of this. Like, oh, it's useless, get rid of it, draw a new card. Oh, I only need to tap 1. Or, hey, I need to tap 4 creatures. Or 3 or 2, I guess. Well, I mean, I designed the absolute legendary deck Gravity Bomb, so of course I like this card. Next up, another reprint in the common slot, we've got Se Prohíbe. Hola, mis amigos. Hey, I'm not used to these not being in Spanish, okay? Give me a break. So this card is actually very significant because it was only ever printed in dual decks, Jace versus Vraska, which who cares about that, and Invasion. So if you look at the existing legality, it isn't legal in Modern until it hits this set. So you know how everybody wanted the spell counterspell to be moved to Modern, and when everybody heard about this, that was like the #1 card that was on everybody's mind? Yeah, considering this is what they threw in, I don't think we're going to get it, at least not in this set. But this is kind of close. They might just be testing the waters with this. And I've got to say, unlike counterspell, this is single blue. So get this, it'll counter any target spell if its converted mana cost is 2 or less. And then if you pay the kicker, which brings it up to a total CMC of 4, which is quite high, but hey, trade-offs, then you can counter any spell that has a CMC of 4 or less. That covers a lot. I mean, I'm not saying people never play 5 CMC spells on the stack in Modern, but 5 is a little high. So early game, this is amazing, and then mid to late game, it's still pretty amazing. I have a feeling that in the common slot, okay, it almost can't even be $1. It's a common. But kind of like Treasure Cruise before it was banned, the foil of it might be worth quite a lot of money because this is huge. This really is friendlier and more realistic to play than the actual spell, Counterspell, because of its single blue. People can put it in a splash color deck. They can put it in a 3-color deck really easy. It's more easy and reliable to cast. I mean, boy, there's very narrow things that it doesn't counter. Now, early game, if somebody tosses out something for 3 because they went first and you didn't, and then, oh, you can't quite counter it, like that kind of sucks, but I think it'll catch on. I think it'll take a while, but it'll see some play. This is probably the biggest spoiler that we've seen so far, and it's in the common slot. Next up, a new card, Stream of Thought. It's a 1-cost blue sorcery, and target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. You shuffle up to 4 cards from your graveyard into your library, and then replicate 4. Now, replicate is not actually a new mechanic. It's on cards like Giga Drowse. And honestly, this isn't a very good instance of it because it's 4. So when you cast this spell, copy it for each time you paid its replicate cost. You may choose new targets for the copies. So in other words, it's just strive, multi-kicker. I mean, there's like 8 different keywords that all do virtually the same thing. Pay more, get another of it. I love how every time they come up with a new version of that, they're like, oh, it's a new keyword. No, it's not. But this is so old it might be new to some of you. But yeah, it's just some mill trash where you recycle your stupid mill cards and then mill them. Obviously, mill is just the worst thing ever. I hate this card, and the fact that you can toss 4 more mana into it potentially and do it again is just complete AIDS. And nobody in Modern is going to have 9 mana to light this off 3 times, so it's just a stupid card. They shouldn't have printed this. Nobody wants mill back in Modern, okay? Nobody. Except whoever designed that card, probably Mark Rosewater. So next up we got Headless Specter. So this is another new invention. It's a 2/2 flyer for 3, double black, and it has Hellbent, another old mechanic. So when Headless Specter deals combat damage to a player, if you have no cards in hand, that player discards a card at random. I mean, for 3, that's probably appropriate. I mean, there are better Specters than this, like Shimmy and Specter, but I mean, that costs 4, and the distance between 3 and 4 in Modern is a lot. The fact that if you have even 1 card in hand, that this is a complete garbage card really kind of ruins it. Otherwise, it's kind of neat. Next up, we've got Venomous Changeling. It's a 1/3 for 3 with Death Touch, but it's also a Changeling. So now every single tribal deck in existence just got a Death Toucher added to it automatically. If it plays black, I should say. Cool, that's what we needed. Thanks, Wizards. I guarantee this is just Moonglove Changeling from Morningtide, but actually good. Next up, we've got Goblin War Party. It's a sorcery that costs 4. Choose 1, create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Oh, that's a little much. I mean, for 4 of those, sorcery speed. And then you could also choose creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. And then they're dusting off another ancient mechanic called Entwine. You could pay 3 extra and choose both. So in other words, it's just fuse, but you don't have to turn the card sideways and read it with extra small font. I can appreciate that. Well, I think everybody in the game hates Goblin decks, so what is there left to say about this stupid card? Next up, we got a reprint of Lava Dart. Boy, we haven't seen this since Judgment. So it's an instant that costs 1 in red, so I already hate it no matter what it does, and it deals 1 damage to any target, and then flashback sack a mountain. Fantastic. So in other words, this does 2 damage for 1, but only if you don't need a mountain later. I mean, you could maybe get a storm deck going with this. Otherwise, I don't know, I've never heard of this card, so I don't think it's that popular. Whatever, it's really just freaking annoying, so let's move on. Elvish Fury. This is another reprint from Tempest. It's never been printed since, at least in paper. It's a 1-cost instant with buyback 4. You may pay an additional 4 as you cast the spell. If you do, just put it right back into your hand as it resolves instead of the graveyard. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Yeah, in some kind of I have way too much mana deck, this would do some damage. I mean, you're going to burn up a lot of mana on just +2, but I mean, it fails to be an ambush, like an unexpected, oh, you just lost a creature ambush once they've already seen it once. So I don't think it's a very good card. Next up, we got another new card, and if you don't get this reference, I mean, come on, this is one of the easier ones. It's Savage Swipe, not Savage Punch, Savage Swipe. Oh, look, the bear is back. I mean, let's be honest, it's the same bear. So target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn if its power is exactly 2. Then it fights target creature you don't control. Each deals damage equal to its power to each other. Well, that is stupidly narrow, but I mean, otherwise a force fight for 1 isn't that bad in the first place. The problem is, even with +2/+2, something that only has power of 2 can then only hit for exactly 4, which in a lot of cases isn't big enough. I mean, in Modern, yeah, it probably is, but there's some stuff it wouldn't kill, and then it's like, what's the point? But then again, if you have like a 6/6 in play, just cast this, who cares, and hit him for 6. I mean, bare minimum, this will be really good in like draft or any kind of limited with this set. Next up, we got a card that just immediately sounded and looked really familiar, but I couldn't place it and it was driving me nuts. And then I realized it's just the card Wing Shards. It's a verbatim reprint. That's where I've seen it before. So anyway, it's a 3-cost instant double white. Target player sacrifices an attacking creature, and then it has Storm because of course it does. Who the hell plays White Storm? I think this is meant as like actual Storm instead of like Storm the way you're thinking of it. Storm was supposed to be like, oh cool, I cast 1 or 2 spells before it, not haha, my Storm count is 11. Screw you, I win the game. It was initially supposed to be some kind of little side benefit that's just like, oh cool, I get multiple copies because I pulled off a bunch of stuff. Oh look, the game's X amount of turns into it, let's just end it. Like I've got 10 mana, cool, I'm gonna stack up 3 spells and win. Not, oh, my entire deck and my entire life revolve around Storm. That's not what it was intended for, which is the exact sentence I would use to describe Modern as a format. I think the ideal realistic use of this is some little 1-cost ambush that like +2/+2 is one of your creatures. You block, boom, take out 1 creature, and then cast this and take out 2 more. Now, I suppose you wouldn't be able to declare the boosted one as a blocker yet at that point. I think I said that wrong. But other than that, yeah, you could take out 3 creatures with 2 spells. I mean, that's not bad. Next up, we've got a reprint from Dungeons & Dragons. It's a Firebolt. It costs 1, and it's a sorcery. Deals 2 damage to any target, and then Flashback 5, where you can cast it 1 additional time directly from the graveyard and then exile it. Not worth it. Not really that great of a spell. I mean, it is any target, but I mean, a little bit of value. I mean, Jumpstart is annoying enough right now. I never did like Flashback. Next, we have Goblin Matron with some creepy looking artwork. This is a reprint. It's a 1/1 for 3. Oh, I'm so glad they put goblins in the set. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a goblin card, reveal that card, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. And then after that, you have a 1/1 for 3. So, I mean, okay, yeah, it's like a free tutor, but I don't know. To go get like the new, what is that, Krenko or whatever? Or maybe Heel Cutter, like Chieftain or something. I mean, yeah, probably. This is kind of like running multiple, and then you'll probably get all kinds of boosts and death triggers and whatever. So, that's probably worth it. Although if you are playing Goblin Tribal, just reassess your entire life real quick. Next up, we've got these snow-covered lands. Oh boy, and they're full art. Yay. So the original snow-covered lands are from Cold Snap and Ice Age, and they're worth between, I don't know, about $1 and like $4 on the high end, I guess. I think they're like technically a basic land, but then they're like snow-covered, so they're not. So then they like technically do something with some other card that they were never meant to interact with, and yeah, a lot of people don't like snow-covered lands. So yay, they're back, and even being full art, they're probably not even going to exceed like $2.50. So that is it for now. They really did not go all out, like leaking all kinds of stuff. A lot of these were common, uncommon, about a third of them at least were reprints, maybe half. And a lot of the new cards are just like facepalm, oh great, now people are going to put this in their deck. Awesome. Instead of calling this Modern Horizons, they should have called this Modern, oh great, I get to deal with this now. I mean, I liked from a value standpoint the idea of Modern Horizons because I think it'll sell well, even looking at this disastrously bad lineup so far. Remember, we've seen like 5 of the rares and like 1 mythic, like that's it. And oh, spoiler alert, there's going to be fetch lands in this. Clearly, there's going to be. They haven't been printed in forever. They're sure as hell not going into a standard set. Oh, and you might have heard that Masters was just discontinued. So they're going to put fetch lands in this set. Plus, brand new product launch, they want a guaranteed like floor to prop it up a little bit in case of emergency. There are going to be fetch lands in this, trust me. It would be the dumbest mistake they've made lately if they don't put them in here. So a lot of people are looking at, this weak set of 20 cards that are mostly common. They're like, oh, the set's a disaster, there's no value, wah. No, I'd wait till a couple more spoilers come out. And by spoilers, I mean leaks. So, I mean, yeah, they aren't coming out like, whoa, here's 10 awesome cards. Because they've been doing that a lot more lately. They, especially for standard, they'll do the first day of spoilers, and they're just like, boom, they just drop bombs on you to get you super amped, mostly about the rest of the spoilers. And then how the entire set, as an entire set, comes out and is valued, that's a different story. But they usually try to wow you, and I guess that's supposed to be Cabal and Sarah. Because, I mean, people saw those, and they're like, okay, I get what you mean. But at least some of these really, really needed to be reprinted. They have been printed in forever, but not really for value reasons. It's really just availability. Not to mention conditions, so that's kind of cool. So hey, hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss the rest of the spoilers coming out every single day, and I will see you guys next video.